Ladies and gentlemen, I want to talk to you about something every single one of us has felt. Something that stings deeper than failure, something that can cut into your heart before you even get the chance to prove yourself. Now, I don't care who you are, where you're from, or what your dreams look like. Rejection is part of life. If you're breathing, you've been rejected. If you're dreaming, you will be rejected. And if you're pushing yourself beyond your comfort zone, I can promise you one thing, you're going to be rejected more than once. But here's the truth, rejection is not your enemy. It is not the end of your story. Rejection is simply redirection. Rejection doesn't define you, it refines you. I want you to let that sink in for a moment. Because too often, when people are told no, they mistake it as a final judgment on their worth. They hear a door slam, and they think the house is closed forever. But rejection is not a verdict, it's a lesson. It doesn't say who you are, it shapes who you can become. It sharpens your edges, toughens your spirit, and prepares you for the weight of the blessings that are waiting down the road. Think about this, every single person who ever achieved something extraordinary has faced rejection. Not once, not twice, but over and over again. And those rejections didn't define them, they refined them. They cut away the excess, burned away the doubt, and forced them to grow into the person capable of carrying success. Take Oprah Winfrey, for example. She was told she wasn't fit for television. Can you imagine that? A young woman sitting across from people who couldn't see her potential, who looked at her talent, her voice, her presence, and decided she wasn't enough. That kind of rejection could have broken her. She could have walked away, believed those words, and settled for less than the destiny she carried. But instead of letting that rejection define her, she let it refine her. She went back to work, sharpened her skills, and grew into the woman who not only dominated television, but built an empire that touched millions of lives. The rejection didn't define her, it refined her. And Walt Disney, the man whose imagination brought joy to the world for generations, was once fired from a newspaper because his editor said he lacked imagination. Think about the irony of that. The man who would later create worlds of fantasy and wonder, told by someone else that he wasn't creative enough. If Disney had accepted that rejection as the truth of who he was, the world would have never known Mickey Mouse, Disneyland, or the countless stories that shaped childhoods. That rejection didn't define him. It refined his drive, his creativity, his refusal to let others place limits on his vision. J.K. Rowling was rejected by 12 publishers before one finally said yes to Harry Potter. 12 times she was told her work wasn't good enough. 12 times she was dismissed. But she didn't stop. She didn't say, well, I guess this dream is too big for me. She kept going. And when that one publisher finally opened the door, the story she had inside her didn't just become a book. It became a global phenomenon. Her rejection was not the definition of her worth. It was the refinement of her resilience. I want you to think about your own life for a second. How many times have you been told, no? How many times have you been passed over, ignored, or dismissed? Maybe it was for a job you thought you were perfect for. Maybe it was in a relationship where someone couldn't see your value. Maybe it was in your art, your craft, your business idea, where people laughed at you or didn't believe in what you carried. In that moment, it hurt. It felt like a door slammed in your face. But let me tell you something, that rejection didn't say, you are not enough. It simply said, not here, not now. Rejection is not the world telling you that you are worthless. Rejection is the world testing how badly you want it. It's asking, will you let this stop you, or will you let it make you stronger? And when you choose strength, when you choose growth, you discover that rejection is like fire. It burns away what doesn't matter and leaves behind only what is pure and unshakable. You see, rejection refines your character. It makes you tougher. It gives you grit. Because let's be honest, if everything came easy, if every door opened without resistance, we'd never develop resilience. We'd never know the power of persistence. It's the no that teaches you patience. It's the no that teaches you self-belief. It's the no that forces you to rise even when it would be easier to quit. And here's the beauty of it. When you stop letting rejection define you, when you start letting it refine you, rejection becomes your teacher, not your enemy. Every closed door becomes a lesson. Every no becomes a stepping stone. Every failure becomes part of the foundation of your future success. Because rejection doesn't say you can't do it. It asks you, how much do you want it? And those who are willing to be refined by that fire, those who keep walking even after the doors close, are the ones who eventually find the doors that open. Sometimes rejection is not a punishment, it's a form of protection. It feels painful in the moment, yes, but often the very door that shuts in your face is the door that wasn't meant to be opened in the first place. What looks like a setback in the short term often turns out to be a safeguard in the long run. Life has a way of keeping us out of places that are not meant for us, out of relationships that would drain us, out of jobs that would stun us, and out of opportunities that look good on the surface, but carry hidden chains underneath. You see, we often have a narrow view of our own future. We think, that's the job I need, that's the relationship I want, that's the opportunity I must have. And when rejection comes, we feel crushed because we've convinced ourselves that this one thing, this one person, this one chance is the key to our happiness. But here's the truth. Just because something looks like a blessing doesn't mean it was built for you. Sometimes rejection is life's way of protecting you from stepping into the wrong story. Let me give you a story to illustrate this. Years ago, a young man auditioned for what he believed was the role of a lifetime. He prepared for weeks, poured his soul into the performance, and when the results came back, he was rejected. He felt devastated. He thought that was his moment, his big break, and it slipped through his fingers. But what he couldn't see at the time was what that rejection was saving him from. That role, the one he thought he needed, belonged to a film that ended up flopping. It sank without a trace, and many of the actors tied to it struggled to find work afterward. A year later, that same young man landed another role in a different project, one that wasn't as flashy but had longevity. That film, it became a classic. That rejection protected him from a dead end and guided him to the very opportunity that launched his career. This happens in everyday life as well. Think about the jobs you didn't get. Maybe you applied for a company, interviewed, and thought everything went perfectly, only to get that dreaded email, "We've decided to move forward with another candidate." You felt crushed. But months later, you hear the company downsized, people were laid off, and the very position you were chasing disappeared. At the time, the rejection felt cruel. Looking back, you realize it was protection. The same goes for relationships. Many of us have prayed and pleaded for someone to stay in our lives who eventually walked away. And in the heartbreak, we thought we had lost everything. But years later, when the pain heals and the perspective grows, you look back and say, thank God that didn't work out. Because the truth is, some people are not meant to walk with you into your future. Some people are lessons, not lifetimes. Rejection from the wrong person is protection from years of heartache. There's another layer to this. Sometimes rejection protects your timing. You might be ready to step through a door, but the opportunity on the other side isn't ready for you yet. Life has a rhythm, a divine order, and forcing your way into a situation before the time is right can do more harm than good. You might think you're ready for that promotion, that investment, that spotlight, but if you get it too early, before your character skills or discipline are mature enough to handle it, it can break you. Rejection becomes protection not from the opportunity itself, but from your own premature entry into it. Think about it like this: if you plant a seed in the ground, you don't demand fruit the next day. You water it, you give it time, you let the season shape it. The same principle applies to your journey. Rejection is often life saying, not yet, grow a little more. Get stronger, build deeper roots. When the season is right, the opportunity will come back around, and this time you'll be ready to carry it. So when rejection comes, don't be so quick to see it as a curse. Ask yourself, what might this be protecting me from? What wrong turn might I be avoiding? What hidden trap might I have been spared? Because the truth is, not every open door is your door. Not every opportunity is your opportunity. And rejection often has more to do with where you don't belong than with where you do. Rejection builds mental strength in a way that nothing else can. It is uncomfortable, it hurts, it bruises your ego and shakes your confidence. But it also does something powerful. It makes you tougher, wiser, and more resilient. Every time you face rejection, you are forced to look at yourself, to examine your weaknesses, to sharpen your skills, and to decide whether you are going to keep going or give up. That process is painful, but it is the same process that develops unshakable strength. Think about an athlete in the gym. Muscles do not grow without resistance. If you never lift a weight that challenges you, your body never gets stronger. Rejection is the resistance that builds the muscle of your spirit. Every no you encounter is like another set of push-ups, another lap on the track, another mile added to your endurance. It may feel heavy, but the heaviness is what makes you stronger. Without rejection, you stay soft, fragile, untested. With rejection, you are forced to grow. Michael Jordan, one of the greatest basketball players the world has ever seen, was cut from his high school basketball team. Imagine being a teenager who loves the game, who pours his heart into practice, only to have a coach look you in the eye and say, "You're not good enough." That could have ended his dream right there. But instead, it ignited a fire. He practiced harder than ever, fueled by that rejection, and it built a relentless mindset that carried him to 6 championships and a legacy that still inspires millions. His rejection did not weaken him. It built his mental strength. The same pattern shows up everywhere. Thomas Edison tried thousands of times before inventing a light bulb that actually worked. People mocked him, laughed at him, even suggested he was wasting his time. But every failed experiment, every rejection of his ideas, made him more determined, more innovative, more resilient. When asked about his so-called failures, Edison famously replied, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." That level of mental toughness doesn't come from easy wins. It comes from the crucible of rejection. We can bring this closer to home, too. Think about your own experiences. Maybe you applied to 10 jobs and got 10 rejection letters. At first, you felt worthless, like nobody wanted you. But if you really look back, you'll see that each rejection taught you something. You rewrote your resume, improved your interview skills, researched companies more carefully, and prepared more thoroughly. And when the right job finally came along, you walked in with a sharper mindset and stronger confidence because rejection had trained you. Without those earlier no's, you might not have been ready when the right yes finally showed up. Here's another way to see it. Rejection is like a coach. It's not always gentle. It doesn't pat you on the back and tell you you're perfect. No, rejection points out your flaws, your blind spots, your weak areas. It forces you to confront them. And that confrontation is where growth happens. If life only ever said yes to you, you would never be tested, never know your true capacity, never discover how much perseverance you are capable of. The gift of rejection is that it hardens your resolve and strengthens your mind in ways that comfort never could. It's also worth noting that rejection tests your patience and self-belief. When you hear repeatedly, you start to wonder, am I really cut out for this? That is the exact moment where strength is forged. If you can keep believing in yourself when the world doubts you, you develop a mindset that nothing can shatter. If you can stay focused when doors keep closing, you train your willpower to endure. Rejection creates warriors out of ordinary people because it teaches them to keep standing after every fall. In fact, some of the most resilient people you will ever meet are the ones who have been rejected the most. They've been told nah more times than they can count, but instead of breaking, they built thicker skin, stronger faith, and deeper courage. And that strength doesn't just help them reach their goals, it carries into every area of life. When other storms come, they don't crumble because they've already been through the fire of rejection and come out stronger. When rejection comes into your life, the first instinct most people have is to fight it or deny it. We want to argue with the world, question the fairness of it all, and sometimes even carry bitterness against the people or systems that told us no. But here's the truth: you cannot always control rejection, but you can control how you respond to it. And the healthiest response is not to run from it, not to resist it, but to accept it. Acceptance doesn't mean you agree with it or that you're happy about it. It simply means you acknowledge what happened without letting it poison your spirit. Think about it like this: rejection is like a storm. You cannot stop the rain from falling, you cannot push back the wind, but you can choose how you stand in it. Some people let the storm destroy them. They curse the clouds, they resent the lightning, and they get so distracted by the storm itself that they miss the lessons hidden within it. Others choose to accept that the storm is here, but they refuse to let it drown them. They adapt, they endure, and they wait for the skies to clear. Acceptance is not weakness, it's strength. It says, yes, this happened, but it does not define the rest of my journey. However, here's where many people make a mistake. They confuse accepting rejection with settling into it. Accepting rejection is healthy, but settling for rejection is dangerous. To accept means you recognize the no, Without bitterness, to settle means you let that no dictate the rest of your life. Too many people hear one rejection and then stop trying. They let a single setback plant the seed of permanent limitation. They say, I guess this is not for me, and they bury their dreams in the ground. That is not acceptance, that is surrender. You have to be careful not to confuse the two. Imagine a writer who sends their manuscript to a publisher and gets turned down. If that writer accepts the rejection, they acknowledge that in this moment, this publisher didn't want their work. They reflect, they improve, and they keep sending it out. But if that writer settles for rejection, they tuck the manuscript into a drawer, tell themselves they were foolish for ever trying, and never write again. The difference between those two choices is the difference between failure and eventual success. History is full of people who accepted rejection without settling for it. Colonel Sanders, the man behind Kentucky Fried Chicken, was rejected more than 1,000 times as he tried to sell his recipe. 1,000 times. Most people would have settled after 10, maybe 20. But he didn't. He accepted that those rejections were real, but he didn't let them stop him. He kept moving until someone finally said yes, and that yes built a global empire. That kind of perseverance is only possible when you learn to accept rejection without letting it convince you to give up. Even in our personal lives, the same principle applies. A person might be rejected in love, turned down by someone they care about deeply. Acceptance means saying, this person didn't choose me, and that's okay. But settling would mean believing, I must not be lovable, and closing themselves off from ever trying again. One response is grounded in strength, the other in fear. Acceptance frees you, but settling traps you. The balance between the two is what shapes your future. You must accept rejection so that it does not harden your heart with bitterness, but you must refuse to settle so that it does not rob you of your potential. It's like walking through a locked door. Acceptance means acknowledging this door is closed. Settling means sitting down at the locked door and deciding to live there forever. But the strong, the ones who learn to thrive through rejection, they accept the door is closed, and then they go searching for another one, or they build their own door altogether. What makes this so powerful is that acceptance without settling actually builds resilience and self-worth. When you accept rejection, you are saying, my value does not decrease just because you did not see it. And when you refuse to settle, you are saying, my destiny is too important to be stopped by a single no. That combination creates unstoppable people. People who acknowledge reality without being defeated by it. People who can take the punch of rejection, absorb it, and still keep moving forward with dignity and determination. Rejection is not just something to survive, it's something you can use as fuel. Every time you hear no, you're given an opportunity not just to toughen up, but to channel that energy into motivation. The sting of rejection can either drain you or drive you. The choice is yours. And those who learn how to turn that pain into power become unstoppable. Think about the fire inside you for a moment. When someone tells you that you can't do something, when they dismiss you, when they close a door in your face, something burns within. That anger, that frustration, that disappointment, it's real. But instead of wasting it on bitterness, instead of replaying the rejection over and over again in your head, what if you turned it into fuel? What if you said, I'm going to take this energy and let it push me further than I've ever gone before? The greatest achievements in history have often been born out of rejection. Let's talk about Sylvester Stallone. Before Rocky became one of the most iconic films of all time, Stallone was rejected over and over again by producers. They told him he didn't have the look, the voice, the appeal. They wanted to buy his script but didn't want him to star in it. He was broke, living with almost nothing, but he refused to let the rejections kill his dream. He used them as fuel. Every no made him more determined. He kept knocking on doors until someone finally gave him a chance. And when Rocky hit the screen, it didn't just succeed, it became a cultural phenomenon. If he had let rejection drain him, we would have never seen one of the greatest underdog stories, both on screen and off. This principle is not limited to celebrities or world-famous stories. It applies to everyday life. A student who fails an exam can use that rejection from success as fuel to study harder, to prepare better, to come back stronger. An entrepreneur who gets rejected by investors can use that now as fuel to refine their business, improve their pitch, and prove the doubters wrong. Even in personal relationships, when someone rejects you, You can use that pain as fuel to grow in self-love, to improve yourself, and to walk with greater confidence so that the next time you are not just ready, you are unshakable. But let's be clear, using rejection as fuel requires discipline. Because the natural instinct is to either give up or to get bitter. Too many people let rejection become a poison instead of fuel. They get angry, they blame the world, they spend years resenting the people who told them no. But here's the truth, bitterness won't get you anywhere. The rejection already happened. You can't change it. What you can change is what you do with it. Do you let it keep you on the sidelines, or do you let it push you to train harder, think sharper, and fight longer? There's a famous saying, success is the best revenge. And there's truth in that. But the point isn't just about proving others wrong. It's about proving yourself right. It's about saying, I knew I had something inside me worth fighting for, and I used rejection to bring it out. That is what makes rejection powerful fuel. Think of rejection like logs on a fire. If you know how to handle it, every no you face adds another log, another spark, another burst of energy. And the fire inside you grows stronger, hotter, more focused. But if you mishandle it, if you let it discourage you, the fire burns out. The key is deciding to use every rejection as wood for your fire, not water to put it out. When you hear the word no, I want you to start asking yourself, how can I use this? Instead of saying, why me? Shift the mindset to, watch me. That shift in perspective is what separates those who stay stuck from those who break through. Because rejection can either bury you or build you. And if you choose to use it as fuel, you'll find that every rejection you've ever faced was secretly an investment in your future strength. So the next time you hear, no, don't let it break you. Don't let it stop you. Smile at it, accept it, because it's only a detour, not a dead end. Remember, rejection is not the opposite of success. Rejection is the path to success. And if you can learn to accept it, to grow from it, and to keep moving forward in spite of it, then there is no rejection on earth that can stop you from reaching the destiny that belongs to you.